Konbanwa minasan. We are tuned in now for another episode of live Clow card readings. And tonight we will get back into it. As promised, I would do this every Tuesday evening. Tomorrow we will actually get back into our live album discussions. And it will be the last episode till the end of the month, perhaps, just because any of the other albums have yet to be released. So it'd kind of be like spoiler alert if I talked about albums after the one that came out last month, because the one of this month has yet to be released. So tomorrow will be the last episode of album discussions for a while. We'll go on a hiatus, but that will be talking about the S.O.S. Brigade Quartet's fourth album. Actually one of my personal favorites too. I know I've said that about the second album and the third album. I would say the second, third, and the fourth were actually my favorite albums. Not that there was anything wrong with the first or the fifth. The fifth was very dark. There was a lot of emotional content in the fifth one. So really good, unique experimentation though. There's actually some things that I love about the fifth one, just being honest, better than other records. So it's not even that there's anything wrong with it, but there was a lot of emotional turmoil. This was near the end of when we were recording together as a group too. Different ideas on things. We kind of took a break, split up. We might make another record, but that is yet to be decided. But that was the last record of records we did together. So it's good, but kind of sad that that was where things ended. Plus, there was a lot of deep emotional ideas involved in that record. That won't be released until November, but the fourth album, which was released, was supposed to be released on Tanabata. Anybody who's watched the other episodes of this probably knows how pissed off and frustrated I was that TuneCore didn't let me release it on the 7th. It didn't end up getting released until the 12th. So I was frustrated with that because I wanted it to be released on Tanabata. So I don't care what anybody says. The official release date to be is still Tanabata. I don't care what anybody else says. That's when it came out in my mind, in my heart, in my eyes, right? But yeah, TuneCore didn't officially process it until the 12th of July, which kind of sucks. I wanted it to drop on Tanabata, but oh well. Either way, we will get into that tomorrow in our live album discussion. So tonight, what we have planned is a reading of whatever random chapter of Neville Goddard's book that we stumble upon, which seems to draw us to it. The universe will lead us to it. And we will do, as usual, a general reading for myself, a romance reading, and a career reading. And then if anybody else would like their fortune told in this episode, all you have to do is comment gender, zodiac sign, and what type of reading you would like, whether it's general, future, romance, or career. And then, of course, we will also discuss the latest developments with everything going on, because there's been some new exciting developments and new discoveries and things that I dared to assume that hardened into fact almost instantly. It's like I'm getting more and more powerful in understanding how this logic works. And what I can say, and I will give credit to some people who actually motivated, inspired, and stimulated my belief. And I will also discuss certain reasons why I perceive things turned out a certain way, which is very interesting. So we will get into that close to the end of the episode. Also, if anybody would like their fortune told, we will get to that near the end of the episode as well. But for now, let's just start off with the general reading. So, oh great Clow cards of Kuroriro, reveal to me what message you have regarding my general future using the power of the sun, the moon, and the stars. Reveal to me what message you have guided by the universal consciousness of infinite intelligence. Veris. Oh, oh, very interesting. I apologize for the noise. There's people talking in the background. That happens. I can't control that. But hopefully they'll quiet down as I begin to talk about this. Anyways, for our general reading, we got these 5 cards first. We will draw another 5 cards just to gain some clarity, but we got the Nothing card. Interestingly enough, that one popped up again. That one popped up I don't know if it was my general future, but it popped up in one of the last readings I did after I talked about watching the movie where they captured the nothing card, the sealed card. And then oddly enough, it popped up again. The wood and all these other cards are random. Like I shuffled this really good. So the fact that it popped up again must have significance. So the nothing, the wood, the dark, the storm, and the fight. So this is actually a very interesting reading because I could understand why if people got these cards and I was reading for them, if they didn't understand the explanation behind the symbolism with all these cards combined, they might perceive this as a negative reading, but I'm not feeling a negative energy from this at all. The nothing is indicating in the general future, everything has to run its own natural course. That it's by doing nothing, by the act of mere assumption, as Neville Goddard always wants to talk about, um, that will lead to some interesting developments. The wood is indicating be gentle with yourself as you're progressing, as you're growing. Be strong, but also don't be too hard on yourself. Try to focus more on the proud feelings of accomplishment where you have succeeded rather than the negatives. And that's very good, actually, in that regard. The dark indicates that prior to this, there was sort of some darkness, like things of the past that needed to get released, limiting beliefs, things that needed to be let go of, so to speak, to progress and move forward. The storm indicates that because of the darkness, too, there was almost like a raging storm of the past going on, which needed to basically run its course in its own natural way. The fight means that I fought through it, that I emerged victorious, and I have triumphed over these struggles. Now, to get other clarity of what the general future has in store for me, we will draw another 5 cards. O great Clow cards of Kurorido, reveal to me, using the power of the sun, the moon, and the stars, what other message you have indicated for me regarding the general future. Reris. Okay, the change, the rain, the jump, the song, and the maze. This is very interesting, especially because the change card in the show, it was actually used to change people, to swap souls almost. Like, the story Freaky Friday, they made a movie of it. They've used that concept of changing bodies many times. They do it in Card Captor Sakura, and that's actually what this card is. However, in the case of fortune telling, it's speaking of the idea of becoming a higher version of yourself, that you're slowly turning in to the more improved and advanced version of yourself. So this is actually a good sign. The rain indicates that this is almost sort of like the rain and sunshine necessary to grow. That this is sort of that down period where things will pour on me, but it's also necessary for the flowers to grow. You can't have flowers growing without sunshine and rain. So the rain is actually a very important part. The jump says taking a leap of faith and sort of closing the gap from one place to another. Excuse me, sumimasen. Now, I understand, oddly enough, what this card is telling me because I've noticed that recently I arrived at a point where I was like, moving forward, this could have actually gone other places. Even looking back, I was like, where I was at a certain point, it could have taken many directions. It could have went one way, it could have went another, it could have went this way, it could have went that way, it could have went all these different ways. But yeah, I decided on a definite possibility of how reality would be, what I would focus on and aim towards. But this is saying that it's closing the gap, meaning that soon enough, all the other possibilities would be eliminated. However, some of them may be necessary, like some of the things I may have intended on before I set my primary goal and started to work towards it and focus on it. Some of them may be just stepping stones along the way to jump to lead to it. They might just be necessary to cross over those bridges, so to speak, and to climb to the highest peak. You have to jump from one peak to another. Meaning some of the things that will be closed off by jumping from one gap to the other, it's necessary to go through those in order to solidify the change. Now, the song is indicating that music, especially because that's what I do, I'm an artist, that the song will prove to be my greatest gift. Songs that I love and adore and listen to, they will prove to be inspirational and motivational and like leading me to where I need to be. And then the maze is saying that there's many paths I could take, but just focus on the end result. There's many different ways that everything could come down to the end result, and that's what it's telling me. Don't focus on it has to be a certain way, it has to be this way. There's many ways that it could happen, and that's what the maze is suggesting, is be open to the possibility of many different paths to lead me to where I desire to be. Okay, that is the general future. Now we will get into the romance. All right. Oh, great Clow cards of Colorido, reveal to me what message you have regarding my romantic situation. Using the power of the sun, the moon, and the stars, guided by the infinite intelligence of universal consciousness, reveal to me the message now. Reis. The lock, the through, the voice, the shadow, and the dream. Okay. So what this tells me, the energy I pick up from the combination of these 5 specific cards is being fixated might end up locking me in sort of a stagnant place. The through means you have to go through things in its own natural way. The voice indicates like using my voice to speak out when necessary, but also knowing that silence is sometimes their highest praise. The shadow indicates that shadows of the past might be taking shape to actually lead me in directions to things that I may have once thought was impossible or gave up on certain possibilities, and now because I put less importance on them, they may lead up to their own fulfillment in its own necessary way and time. The dream is indicating that the dream is already done, it's already been accomplished, and through dreams, meditation, visualizing, imagining, and sort of dwelling in the vision of the wish fulfilled, that the answers will come to me. That by seeking the higher self as I go through this journey, the dreams from now on will be very significant in revealing to me what answers I seek. So this is a very good sort of idea, because it's saying there may be other people along the way who are drawn to me, who are attracted to me, who want me or whatever, but it's not wrong to focus on the specific person. If you're looking at that as the end result, it's basically saying like, okay, that's your wife, but along the way, it might not just be one jump to right there. It might say you might end up dating this person, you might hook up with this person. Certain things may happen as you get guided towards being married to that person. And that's what it's indicating, is be open to all the different paths that I may take along the way. It's also saying like, be careful about temptation, be aware of it, like to know of it, its existence, that it is out there. And that it's almost like the shadows of the old self will try to tempt me with possibilities that weren't once there, now that I've risen to a higher state of consciousness. So to be careful of that. Next, for career, we will do a reading. All right. So, oh great Clow cards of Colorido, reveal to me what message you have regarding my career. Using the power of the sun, the moon, and the stars, Eris. Freeze, the windy, the sleep, the twin, and the silent. Well, this is actually a very interesting reading, and I say that too because the fact that you have the twin indicates sort of a conflict of duality in nature, which it's almost like the old self and the new self are battling against each other to see who's the dominant of the personas. Now, the freeze indicates that although things seem to be still, they seem to be like locked in a movement where it's not really seeming like anything's moving. It's like you look at water. Water might become frozen. However, did you know that even when water is frozen, the molecules and the atoms and the particles within water are actually still moving and circulating, even if the water's frozen? Not the outer appearance of water, but the inner system of its own like anatomy, or you know, basically its own internal cell development is still moving and functioning in its own accordance. Even if the water is frozen, the molecules in the cells of the water are still moving. So that's what it's saying, to be careful that it appears to be more still than it is. The windy is indicating that things lately have also taken a big turn. They've sort of blown away any anticipation or previous concepts I might have had regarding my career, which is very true with the new single reaching new heights that none of my other songs ever did, which I'm even kind of baffled by that too, that it keeps climbing. It's almost at 3,000 views now, and that it has actually reached a peak higher than any of my other songs already in such a short time. So that kind of blew me away. That's what windy is indicating. The sleep indicates that by imagining and drifting off into the state of feeling successful, more success will come. That the audience is sleeping, so to speak, as well, but when they awaken and realize all the great music that I've made that is right in front of them, that's why the twin comes in. Although it's a battle within myself of the old consciousness, the older consciousness is beginning to fall astray compared to the new conscious. Now, the silence means be still, be silent, know that it's already done, trust with faith, and focus on the object of desire. So, this is actually a very interesting reading. It's probably the most unique one I've ever got regarding the career. So, yeah, as I mentioned, if anybody else would like a reading, please comment, as I said, gender, zodiac, and if you would like career, general future, or romance. Now we will get into our Neville Goddard discussion today. And interestingly enough, we opened up to the chapter on failure, which is an important chapter. So the fact that we opened up to this one first, this is what we'll read from. This book would not be complete without some discussion of failure in the attempted use of the law of assumption. It is entirely possible that you have had or will have a number of failures in this respect, many of them in really important matters. If having read this book, having a thorough knowledge of the application and working of the law of assumption, you faithfully apply it in an effort to attain some intense desire and fail, what is the reason? If to the question, did you persist enough, you can answer yes, and still the attainment of your desire was not realized, what is the reason for failure? The answer to this is the most important factor in the successful use of the law of assumption. The time it takes your assumption to become fact, your desire to be fulfilled, is directly proportionate to the naturalness of your feeling of already being what you want to be, of already having what you desire. The fact that it does not feel natural to you to be what you imagine yourself to be is the secret of your failure. Regardless of your desire, regardless of how faithfully and intelligently you follow the law, if you do not feel natural about what you want to be, you will not be it. If it does not feel natural to you to get a better job, you will not get a better job. The whole principle is vividly expressed by the Bible phrase, you die in your sins. You do not transcend from your present level to the state desired. How can this feeling of naturalness be achieved? The secret lies in one word, imagination. For example, this is a very simple illustration. Assume that you are securely chained to a large heavy iron bench. You could not possibly run. In fact, you could not even walk. In these circumstances, it would not be natural for you to run. You could not even feel that it was natural for you to run. But you could easily imagine yourself running in that instant. While your consciousness is filled with your imagined running, you have completely forgotten that you are bound. In imagination, your running was completely natural. The essential feeling of naturalness can be achieved by persistently filling your consciousness with imagination, imagining yourself being what you want to be or having what you desire. Progress can spring only from your imagination, from your desire to transcend your present level. What you truly and literally must feel is that with your imagination, all things are possible. You must realize that changes are not caused by caprice, but by a change of consciousness. You may fail to achieve or sustain the particular state of consciousness necessary to produce the effect you desire. But once you know that consciousness is the only reality and is the sole creator of your particular world, and have burnt this truth into your whole being, then you know that success or failure is entirely in your own hands. Whether or not you are disciplined enough to sustain the required state of consciousness in specific instances has no bearing on the truth of the law itself, that an assumption, if persisted in, will harden into fact. The certainty of the truth of this law must remain despite great disappointment and tragedy. Even when you see the light of life go out, and all the world go on as though it were still day, you must not believe that because your assumption failed to materialize, the truth that assumptions do materialize is a lie. If your assumptions are not fulfilled, it is because of some error or weakness in your consciousness. However, these errors and weaknesses can be overcome. Therefore, press on to the attainment of ever higher levels by feeling that you already are the person that you want to be. And remember that the time it takes for your assumption to become reality is proportionate to the naturalness of being it. Man surrounds himself with the true image of himself. Every spirit builds itself a house, and beyond its house a world, and beyond its world a heaven. Know then that the world exists for you. For you the phenomenon is perfect. What we are, that only can we see. All that Adam had, all that Caesar could, you have and can do. Adam called his house heaven and earth. Caesar called his house Rome. Perhaps you call yours a cobbler's trade, 100 acres of land, or a scholar's garret. Yet line for line, and point for point, your dominion is as great as theirs. Though without fine name, build therefore your own world. As fast as you conform your life to the pure idea in your mind, that will unfold its great proportion. Ralph Waldo Emerson. And so that concludes our reading of Neville Goddard for tonight, which is a very interesting chapter. It basically says, to just summarize what I take away from that, and it's very interesting because I always love rereading parts of that, and I feel like I learn something new each time. The way I interpret that is he's saying that just because you don't see it currently in your 3D reality doesn't mean necessarily that you fail. It may seem as though you failed, but you must believe, no, you actually succeeded despite the appearance of failure. Because if you actually give up and admit failure, well, then that's exactly what you'll receive. But if it isn't natural at the moment, then it means you're meant to keep persisting in it until it becomes a natural feeling. It's basically you fill the ideas of imagination within your mind enough that you're so comfortable and used to the ideas of that floating into your mind that it becomes natural. It's like you don't have to try to think about it or imagine it, you just do. And that basically becomes natural. And then from there, you'll actually start to see the effect and the influence of that projecting out into your world. So it's a very important chapter. It actually basically says that if you get discouraged by the concept of failure and you believe, oh, well, I assumed and imagined this, but it didn't happen. In fact, Goddard said this once in a lecture I listened to. He was like, well, then what are you doing not imagining still? You keep imagining. You keep persisting in the assumption. That's the whole point of what he's saying, is it may seem as though you failed, but the real idea is don't believe you failed. If the outer reality is saying you failed, then refuse to accept that idea. Be like, no, you know what? I've already succeeded. I don't care what this outer reality is showing me. I've succeeded. I already have it. I don't see it, but it doesn't matter. I believe it. It's already an accomplished fact. It is already done. And that's the idea of persisting in the assumption. You're doing that by faith. Faith, as he said in another lecture too, is loyalty to unseen reality. You may not see it. It may look like it didn't happen. It might not appear for you right away, but you will still sit there and say, no, you know what? I have it. I don't see it, but I have it. In fact, there's a good quote from the movie Small Soldiers, where one of the toys was talking to one of the main human characters, and he said a line that I'll never forget. In fact, I remembered this recently when it came to studying Neville Goddard. He said, Alan, just because you can't see something doesn't mean it isn't there. It's there, you just can't see it, right? Because it lies internally. It lies within the mind. It lies within your heart. And the heart is really the emotional consciousness of your mind. The subconscious connects to the heart. So if you feel it's true, you feel the naturalness of it, then it naturally has to project outwards. But if it doesn't feel natural, then that means you just have to keep persisting in the imagination and the assumption long enough that it will feel natural. Because you notice when you start to think things long enough, whether it's good or bad, and people do this all the time. I notice I used to do this about good and bad things, and I was unconsciously doing it. When you think a thought over and over and over again, whether it's true or not, you will actually start to believe it. You will convince yourself of its truth if you just keep thinking about it. Because you'll think about it so much, it will be natural to think that thought and believe that. So you could do that for good or evil. The choice is yours. You could do it for indifferent sort of ideas too. But that's where the idea of naturalness comes into place. When you think something and imagine it and believe in it long enough, it actually becomes part of your reality. It's like you've heard the saying too. I'm sure anybody watching this has heard the old saying. If you tell yourself a lie long enough, you're going to start to believe it's true. That's the whole idea behind that too. So anyways, getting into that part of our discussion, yeah, a lot of things have happened recently. I'm actually very happy and grateful that Hitomi Shimatani recovered from a fever and a sore throat. She wasn't feeling well, but it's amazing because even though she was a bit under the weather, she still ended up at performing this one couple's wedding. And then, yeah, she also went on stage and sang with her daughter the song Yume, which translates to English as Dreams. And really beautiful song. It was really nice. She actually gave her this big bouquet of flowers too. So it's nice to see that she's recovering. She's getting back to health. Hopefully she won't push herself too hard. She'll take it easy for the next little while. Keep doing her thing. And, you know, all the fans in the VIP club, we support you, Hitomi-chan. And, of course, as the person I love most, I support you always with all my heart. Now, yeah, as I was going to say, too, a lot of interesting things have happened recently. As usual, Chihara always hearts my comments when I say how much of a dear friend she is, which is very motivating and uplifting. But what I could say is I tried this interesting meditation last night, and I was imagining things, and it felt so real. It felt like it was really happening. In fact, I was still kind of sitting there at the back of my mind saying, like, I know I was doing a meditation, but somehow I feel like that was really real. Like I wasn't imagining it. Like it felt so real. I actually believe, like, did that really happen? Did I like go into a world where that actually took place? Because it felt so natural and real. And it was this one meditation by a guy whose grandfather actually learned from Neville Goddard himself. And his grandson does these meditations on YouTube. I forget his full name. I believe it's Elmer J. Locker Jr. is his name, I believe. I could be saying it wrong, forgive me, but definitely check out his information. I've actually learned a few things from him, and his meditations are always very interesting. Now, I tried this one, not really like counting on, oh, this is 100% going to work, but it sounded interesting. It appealed to the nature of some of my desires. So I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to try this one, just see what happens. And I noticed there were opportunities and things that ended up happening, excuse me, and unfolding in my daily activities that actually showed that this meditation did work. And it's interesting because obviously there's the person I love most. That's who I chose to, focus on when I was doing the meditation and using my imagination. But I'll put it this way. It was so intense. It felt like I wasn't imagining. It felt like it really happened. In fact, I would sit there thinking like, that felt so real. Like it didn't even feel like it was imagination. It felt so natural, felt so real. I felt like I really was with her in my bed. We were laying, talking. She was speaking to me in Japanese. It was beautiful, romantic. It was wonderful. In fact, it felt so real. I'm still like, did that really happen, or was that just my imagination? Because I can't even tell. And it's fascinating because I did that. And then other people started approaching me today and seemed more drawn to me and attracted than ever before. I was kind of shocked by it. I was like, oh my God, it increased my magnetism. It's kind of amazing. In fact, I plan to do it tonight before bed as well. But another thing I will say too is an interesting experience that happened to me when I started going to this seminar with one of Bob Proctor's coaches named Lillian Victoria. And she had some nice concierges I talked to. One named Michelle, another named Trisha. I actually went on a few calls with Michelle, and she actually encouraged me with the nature of my goals. In fact, I was kind of nervous about the specific person goal, but I did explain to Lillian, like, what if you're both artists and you see that as like an equal to what you would view yourself as the ideal person being with and having. She said, well, in a case like that, you should let go and let God. However, if that actually is the reason for your goal and you're actually looking at it from that point of view, then you really got to trust your intuition and listen to the quiet voice within. And if it's telling you that's the right person, hey, many artists end up together. That very well could be the possibility. So it was really positive encouragement regarding the nature of my goal with He Told Me, which made me so happy because finally a coach actually supported and encouraged my goal. In fact, I could say by attending this seminar, it was nice because one of the things they kept talking about was borrow my belief in you. Don't try to believe the old version of yourself. Can you do this? Don't listen to that old paradigm. Believe that my belief in you. I believe you can do it, so believe in that. Believe that you can do it because I believe in you. So doing that, I did notice some massive shifts. In fact, the concierge, Michelle, actually told me today, she actually liked the new music video, Boku mo Ai Stereo, gave me some praise for that. And she was very encouraging and supportive with my goals, both musically and romantically. But she said, I've seen like such a growth in you just this past week. Like you've really grown a lot and you seem like a lot more motivated and inspirational, and your energy, your vibrations grown, right? And of course, in the seminar, actually the last few live Zoom calls, they've singled me out, oddly enough, but not in a bad way, but like to give my goals as examples because they like my goals, I think is what that means. But, this one guy, Tom, he was talking about, I could see you in Japan. I could actually picture it. I see you the way you see yourself. I could see you performing music and singing in Japan and doing all that. Like, I could actually picture you doing that, which was really inspiring and encouraging and motivational. Like, I felt like, yeah, I got this. He's assuming the best for me, like Goddard says you should do, and he's picking up on my vibration, which is very good. And Lillian too, who is like the main like teacher and coach of this program, she even said like, because your goal is music, like to give an example, like, you might not see the payoff for it right away. You have to have loyalty and faith to unseen reality. Like you might not see it right away. And people think in the entertainment industry with actors and musicians that it's some sort of overnight success. It doesn't happen that way. It might seem like that, but that success might be 10, 15 years in the making, which made me really feel good and positive about myself because I've been making music for, over 14 years now, like 16 years being realistic. So I was like, oh, everything is adding up. It's all leading up to the grand fulfillment of Super Comic Guru Alucard's destiny. So that made me feel really positive, encouraged, and inspired, and hopeful, and optimistic for the future. So yeah, I would definitely recommend to anybody. Like, if you really want to go talk to a good coach, and you want, like, because I'm not really that big on a lot of coaches, I'll be honest with you. Some people, I think they charge too much money. Some people gave me like a negative vibration. But one thing I could say is I actually felt really motivated and inspired from this seminar. So I could actually see why Lillian is such a great coach, and I would actually encourage and motivate anybody that if you did want to have a coach. Now, Naya's great too. That's actually why I took one of her courses too. I've talked about her before. But Lillian, for the price too, and she's been doing this for a long time. She actually worked in the entertainment business before becoming like a coach and learning from Bob Proctor and all that. But what I can say is she's really good at it, and she's gone through struggles herself, as she like told all of us in the group. But it makes her that much more relatable, that you actually believe, like, if she could do it, I could do it too. And then when she says, borrow my belief in you, you really believe like you could do it, and it's really inspiring, it's encouraging and motivational. So that's why I figured, especially because this is the discussion part of my show, and we had just completed the final day of the seminar today. I just wanted to encourage people that if you're interested, definitely check out our coaching. If you'd like more information, you can comment in the video, and I'll give you a link to it as well. And of course, as always, if you'd like your fortune told, please just comment gender, zodiac, and if you'd like general, future, romance, or career, and I'll be sure to give you a reading. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to discuss for today. So hopefully everybody enjoyed tonight's episode of live Clow card readings, and we will be back next Tuesday for another exciting episode, and hopefully we'll have more fortunes to tell. So take care. Oyasu minasan. Domo arigato gozaimasu. Matane. Super Kami Guru Alucard. Peace out.